What's up guys, Phoenix here, and today I'm going to be talking with you about DuelingNetwork, specifically why it is better than DevPro or Yugioh Pro in almost any conceivable or comparable way. There are a couple areas where DevPro, Yugioh Pro kind of edge out in front of DN and just become better softwares, but for the most part DuelingNetwork is 100% better than DevPro or Yugioh Pro, and I've had a lot of people in the comment sections of my videos over the past, 4 or 5 days since I've been doing DN videos again that have been just going they're just like, no, please stop, don't play on DN, it's awful, it's terrible, and quite frankly you're wrong, and I'm going to explain to you why that is in the most fact given and logical way and function and method. Basically, the thing with DuelingNetwork versus DevPro or Yugioh Pro, I guess we can just lump them all into Yugioh Pro at this point, because it is Yugioh Pro Salvation. DevPro is an extension of Yugioh Pro. They're all based off the Yugioh Pro software, the original one, which I believe was Yugioh Pro Percy, but they are basically all essentially the same things, even though they are under different developments and have different servers and have different updates, schedules, and all that sort of nonsense. They can all basically be lumped into the fact that they are Yugioh Pro. But ultimately, the fact that it's an automated dueling system is already the first big detractor from this. Now, people are going to say, and I know it immediately, I can see the future, I can see the comments on these videos, is that you were such an advocate of DevPro for such a long time, and you were you hated DN. And yes, and that is very, very true. I did not like playing on DN, but that was for a different reason. The reason was because I did not like the people that I was dealing with. It wasn't because of the actual system itself. Basically, with DevPro, you don't have that issue, and I am still a very big advocate of DevPro. I believe that it's very good to use. It's probably the best system to use for testing OCG cards because it's the quickest to update. DN doesn't get them until they're released in the OCG. As soon as they're announced that next Sunday, you get them on DevPro. That's insane. And then also for live streaming capabilities, DevPro is a little bit better in terms of just how you can organize things and keep it moving. And the fact that it's automated means that you can pay more attention to other things. I'm definitely not knocking DevPro in that sense. DevPro is still a very, very good software. But ultimately, DN is just better for very, very multiple reasons, and all of them do really stem from competitive play. I myself got really tired of the game in general, of Yu-Gi-Oh! Completely, and I was on the verge of actually just stopping, completely. I was on the verge of just saying, you know what, I'm done with this, because the game was not that fun for me anymore, and I can attribute this mostly to DevPro in some form or function. The fact that it was automated really, really takes your edge off as a player. You have to have much less thought process and interaction with each passing game, and that's what I like the most about the game. I like player interaction. I like sitting down, thinking out problems, stuff like that. And DevPro being automated, Yugioh Pro being automated, takes that away from you. You don't physically move the cards around. You just point and click buttons and let the system do the work for you. And you lose so many things from that other than just the ability to move cards around. Yu-Gi-Oh! As a game is multiple games in one. And I mean that in a very, very literal sense. You are playing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! When you sit down and play a game with somebody, but you are playing multiple different games. And I don't mean different games of a match. I mean when you sit down to play someone, you are playing, 1, a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! With them. 2, you're playing mind games, a mental game. Do you know more than them? Are you able to lure them into doing stuff? Are you able to do all of this nonsense? You are playing an emotional game. You're trying not to give away information. You're trying to you basically have a good poker face. You're trying to do all this nonsense. There are easily 4 or 5 different facets of different interactions with either yourself or your opponent that you are doing when you're sitting down playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, whether it be on DuelingNetwork or in real life. Obviously, more of them play into real life because you have things like body language, you have all these different things that factor in that area, but DN still kind of supplements that, whereas DevPro and Yugioh Pro, they take that away. On DN, you have to physically know what every single one of your things do. The system is not going to hold your hand and be like, oh, you activated this? This is what your options are. It's not going to do that for you. You can make mistakes. You have to be verbally and visually just aware of everything that's going on. DN is the closest to playing an actual game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In person with someone that you can get in an online area. It definitely just is the most competitive, easiest way to try and get that sort of stimulus if that's what you're looking for. And that is what I was looking for. Playing DevPro for so long, I could easily see my gameplay skills and my personal thought processes, decision tree making on it, everything was declining. There was a solid point where I did not go to any locals, did not play any games of Yu-Gi-Oh in real life, and just did nothing but play on DevPro. And while that is good in some form and some method to just learn things, it just kills your player instinct if you're a competitive player. It absolutely kills it because there's no interaction. You're not having to deal with your opponent. You're not having to know rulings. You're not having to know card sequencing because the system does it all for you. Now, DevPro is still just really good for learning new things. That's definitely not something that I'm trying to say isn't the case. But the only two things that DevPro really has for it that are good is the fact that it gets new cards quickly and the fact that it's automated for rulings, even though they are OCG rulings in base form. It's all the OCG rulings. If there's a conflicting ruling for the TCG, the OCG ruling is what it's applied to because of the fact that that is the original ruling for the card because it's a Japanese ruling. And the other good factor for it is the fact that it has a timer, so that you can't deal with people that are just trying to just troll you. Like, you have a certain cap on time that can be done. But that as well is its biggest damning factor. No matter how high of an output your deck might have, you might be restricted. You might have a glass ceiling put over your plays simply because of the fact that at the very maximum with DevPro, you have a 5-minute timer for your turn. Now you have a 2-minute timer for obvious plays. If you don't make a single move in 2 minutes, you get timed out so that your opponent doesn't have to sit there and deal with you being AFK. But even if you are making plays, your turn itself cannot last any more than a couple seconds over 5 minutes or something like that. And that's absolutely ridiculous. No matter how high of a ceiling your deck might have, if your combo string is really long and you're trying to learn it, congratulations. You're locked out of that in DevPro. You cannot play it. There are certain decks that are unplayable on DevPro because of the fact that their combo sequence, their sequencing of plays, anything like that, just takes such a long amount of time, whereas on DN, you don't have that factor built into it. The fact that there's a timer as well also just means that your plays are a lot more rushed. You don't have time to think out the best plays because you're going to be sitting there, and if you spend 45 seconds thinking about your play, which is a fairly reasonable time if it's a complex game state or a complex combo, congratulations. You now have lost a almost fifth of your entire turn that you could have played, and now you still have to do the combo. You may not even have found the right solution, but you just have to do it now. You have to do it because you're being committed to it by the clock. It's not something that you yourself have committed to in your mind, and that's something that kind of sucks. Dueling Network doesn't have this issue. Add on top of that the fact that you have to know what all your cards do and you're not just button clicking. It just gives you a much more rewarding sense of accomplishment when you do these things because you have to catch it. The system's not going to say, oh, this hit the graveyard, would you like to activate it? No, you have to physically remember it. You have to know that it went there. From a competitive standpoint, DN is just so much superior because it nurtures your brain. It nurtures your brain cells to just look, receive information, perceive information, do all these different things and make sure you're doing it right. You actually have to play as if you're playing a real game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Whereas DevPro, again, you don't have that issue. You are still playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, but, is it really though? You're not doing anything except pressing buttons. It's just, the system is playing for you and you get to turn your brain off other than saying, oh, I wanted to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. It's just, yeah, it's just it's kind of weird. Now you can make the argument, on the other hand, that yes, DevPro does it for you, but that also cuts out cheating. The thing is, though, if you aren't capable of catching cheating, then that also means that you are a weaker player in, even not as a competitive standpoint. If you're just playing with friends, if you can't catch cheating, if you can't catch someone normal summoning twice, then, or searching a card that this card says they can't search or something like that, if you can't catch that sort of nonsense, then you need to better your gaming skill. You need to cultivate yourself as a player. DN makes you have to register everything your opponent is doing. If your opponent's trying to cheat you or trying to use a ruling that's incorrect, you are going to get rewarded for knowing that knowledge. You're going to get rewarded for knowing that. And if you didn't know it, you're going to go and check it out, and you're going to be like, oh god, that's not how this works. Like, there's all these different things that come into play that just make DN just kind of better, because of the fact that it is the closest thing to a real game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you can possibly play. Yes, the admin waits suck, but I mean, you had to wait for a judge at an event anyway. It's all very relative. Sure, the admin waits are significantly long, but I mean, you can easily just tab out and do something. Like, if you're sitting in an event and you're waiting 2-3 minutes for a judge, which is not out of the scope of the realm of possibility at a large-scale event like Nationals or something like that, you could throw your hand in the air and call for a judge, and if the 3 judges that are closest to you are all busy, you are going to be sitting there for a solid 2 to 3 minutes, and that's time that you will not get back on a time extension after the judge call. You have to factor all that in as well. But with the admin call, at least you can tab out, something like that. Like, if you have 2 screens like I do here, like, you can easily just open up a tab on a different screen and just do something else. Most people that I know with a computer setup have 2 screens. Even if you don't, you can just tab out. Just keep checking back in to make sure the admin is there or not. Like, it's easy. It's really easy. People go a little bit way too hard on this nonsense about, oh, DN's terrible because you have to wait for admins. The admins are bad. To date, I have not had one single bad admin call. The people that complain about them getting bad admins, I don't know how. I don't know where you're finding them, because I personally know a handful of the admins, and I have personally been in Skype calls where I jump around with some of the DN admins and watch them give rulings. I have seen almost every admin and interacted with almost every admin with personal admin calls over the years, and I've never gotten a bad admin ruling. And even if you do get a bad admin ruling and you know for 100% you're correct, you can back it up with documentation, all that, you can appeal to the senior admins. Like, all the admins that I've seen know what they're doing. All the people that I see that are bitching about bad admins and all this nonsense, like, I don't get it. I don't know where you're finding these people. Either you're the one that's wrong, or you're just bitching to be bitching. Like, it's that simple. I have no idea where you're finding all these bad admin cases. The case in point might just be that you might be wrong, and you might just not want to be accepting that. Then again, these are typically usually people that are advocating DevPro because they, again, don't want to nurture themselves as players. A lot of the people that want to play on DevPro are people that just kind of, I guess I can kind of call them casuals, but I mean, there are people that are casuals, and that's rightfully so. You're perfectly fine to stay with DevPro if you want to. I'm not saying you should be playing on DN versus DevPro. Like, if you're ultimately going to play whatever you're going to play in the end. I'm just basically justifying my own decision and why the videos will be doing this from now on. You having to interact with your opponent physically on DN and having to actually talk with them, declare your effects, all this nonsense, just nurtures you as a player. Now, if you're fine in whatever state of the game that you're in, if you just want to play this game because you're just like, you know what, I'm just trying to have fun, I just want to try this nonsense, then absolutely go to DevPro. I believe DevPro is the best system to use for learning a new deck or testing OCG stuff because, like I said, it's programmed into the system. The system is going to tell you what you're able to do. The system is going to allow you to make the plays that are legal to be made. There's going to be no misinterpretation there of, like, card effects and stuff like that. Like, there is that is easily, doable, as well as the fact that there is a very heavily played OCG card pool area on DevPro due to the fact that it lacks a very big competitive player base. Like, there's all these things that just kind of culminate into one to make DevPro kind of the holy grail of if you want to test OCG stuff. And that will continue to be the thing on my live streams and my channel as I play OCG stuff. I'm not 100% abandoning DevPro at all. A lot of people got that implication. No, that's not the case. I still love DevPro. I still get on DevPro like all the time. But it's going to be strictly to play OCG stuff. Anything TCG related, that's where my competitive mindset needs to be nurtured and needs to be applied. And that's where DN is going to be doing that, because DN makes me pay attention to everything. I need to look at my cards. I need to look at my opponent's cards. On DevPro, if somebody attacked me with a Cosmo Farm Girl, used its effect, paid 500, searched Cosmo Town, and I was under the implication that it can only search Cosmo monsters, I'm not going to look into it. I'm not going to look into it because the system allowed them to do it. It's like, oh cool, they added Cosmo Town. On DN, if that same thing occurred where they attacked with the Cosmo Farm Girl, paid 500, and then searched a Cosmo Town, and I thought that they could only search Cosmo monsters, I'm going to read Cosmo Farm Girl. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to just accept the fact that it happened because the system allowed it. there are things like that that just come into play. You have to read your opponent's cards, you have to read yours, you have to know all the rulings offhand. It just nurtures all your thought processes. And from a competitive player that is always trying to grow in the game, like myself, that's just better for me. It's obviously not better for some, but that is better for me, and that is why I believe DN is better. I've always had this mindset of knowing that DN was better for technical play, but I just wanted to stay away from it because of the people. But then I just got into my head that I'm going to be dealing with these people at events anyway. So why would I not also just try to just deal with them on DN, because I'm going to be dealing with them regardless. If I'm going to deal with someone trying to cheat me at an event, why would I want to keep myself away from it online when that could just better prepare myself for how to deal with the situation? All these things. But that's basically all I can really think of to discuss. I had some discussion points that I wanted to talk about, but I don't remember if I got to them or not. Basically, I just wanted to speak my mind, because holy shit, people are going insane on my Facebook, everything. There's like, dude, go back to DevPro, DN sucks, so many bad admins, Like, I don't see it. And for me to keep doing duel videos, it's going to have to be on DN, because I literally hated the game until I started playing on DN again, because I could actually play real games, and I felt myself getting back what I lost, which was some of my natural player instinct and competitive edge. But that's, like I said, what's best for me, what's best for you, I mean, that's completely up in the air. You're open to do whatever you want. This is not me saying you have to play on DN or you suck, or play on DevPro because you're a casual. No, that's not how this is at all. But anyway, that's all I really want to talk about in this video. I just wanted to put my thought process out there for you guys to understand. If you like this video, share it around, whatever. If you have someone that you're trying to convince one of the systems is better than the other, and this video is helpful to you for that, then, I mean, 100% broken, use it. But other than that, as always, guys, like, comment, subscribe to all the nonsense you usually do. Links are in the description to my Facebook pages, my Twitch channel, my Twitch Alerts donation link. If you want to support me directly, give maybe a small donation. Some people did that for my birthday, which was on Tuesday, which was broken. I did not even know that was happening. But then I just logged on to my PayPal, and I just saw that there were like people that had been donating to my Twitch Alerts thing because my birthday was Tuesday. And I was like, oh my god, some people are awesome. And you all know who you are. I'm not going to call you out. I'm not going to just be like, ooh, look at this person, be more like them. No, that's not how this works around here, basically. But other than that, as always, guys, take care. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. If you agree with them, great. If you don't, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. This computer chair is comfortable as fuck, though. This is new. I got a new computer chair, and it has headrest support. Broken! Like Dueling Network.